The Dale Show. Welcome to the Dale Show, starring Geoff. And
Good day.
That's Geoff. I'm Dale. I guess I'm wearing a hat today because my hair is long enough to get messed up and I don't like it. And that's the only reason. I'm not trying to make a statement with my Oilers, although that is my team. And it does match the orange shirt day, like Geoff had mentioned. He's like, are you wearing an Oilers shirt or an Every Child Matters shirt? Because I mean, we'd have to address this. This is the conspiracy podcast where we talk about how shitty the government is all the time throughout history. And the Truth and Reconciliation Day is yet another example of when the government was shitty. And I don't know, could do a whole podcast on that.
Could do a whole podcast.
Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to direct everybody to website on the internet. I'm just typing it to make sure I have it. It is Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. That is nctr.ca, and it's like it gives you a whole rundown of everything.
Yeah.
So
here in Canada, it's the second annual National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, and it follows on the heels of the release of the Truth and Reconciliation document, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was an agreement.
Yeah,
where they paid everybody out, and then, but then they started finding unmarked graves. I think it all like they had found them in the past, but what happened was 2 years ago or a year ago, they found a grave in Kamloops at one of the residential schools. They were going to redevelop it or something.
Yeah.
And the construction went in and they found unmarked graves. And then there's this huge uproar all the way across Canada. And then they started looking into other residential schools and finding other unmarked graves of like child's bodies and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it just turned into this
Indigenous children's bodies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that would be a good thing to have a whole podcast on, but that's one of those things that I'm kind of scared to talk about because I don't want to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say anything bad. But today we're going to talk about false flags because that's fucking crazy. And if I mess that up, I don't feel as bad. Although, Oof. Yeah. So I don't know how am I going to start this. I guess what I'll do.
So why don't you explain what a false flag is for those people who don't know? It's not like you're literally waving a flag around.
It used to be.
It's like, okay. So all right. I don't know very much about this, so I'm coming into this one cold. Nice. So why don't you tell me and everyone at home what
young Padawan?
I know. I'm new to this. Cool.
So I'm going to give you my references that I looked up. So I went to an article on historyco.uk, and that was the truth about false flags from Nazi Germany to the Vietnam War. And that gave a rundown on some, like a bunch of, because I wanted to give what false flags means, and then we could talk about specific incidences. So I got some from there. And then there's this book called Tragedy and Hope, and it was written a while ago. But then this guy did Tragedy and Hope 101, and it's an audiobook you can get on Audible. And it's Audible, and it's 5 hours long, so it's a nice quick one, and it's jam packed with conspiracy goodness. I highly recommend it. But he does a chapter on false flags, so I took a little quote here and there from there, and then of course I got a quote from David Icke, so I don't get or David Icke, I think I came up with to get around getting flagged by the algorithm for bringing up Captain Lizardman himself. I don't know if AI does that yet, where it searches and flags based on audio files, or even if it did, if this podcast would be big enough to. Oh, my internet connection just got unstable.
Yeah,
you brought up David Icke.
It's David Icke. Are we not supposed to say his name out properly?
Were you not listening to me while I was saying it
No,
wrong?
it froze. The computer froze. I didn't hear the last
Oh,
like 4 minutes of anything of
okay.
what you said.
Okay. You were looking down. I thought you were researching something. So what I
No, I
said
was
was,
checking out my wiener.
I'm saying he's one of the people I quote, and I say David Icke because I'm not sure if the AI algorithm that flags everything and like
Oh,
shadow
right.
bans you is
Yeah,
advanced enough to go through the audio logs and recognize stuff,
Roger
or
that.
even
Sorry.
if
So
it
stop
is
saying. So I should
that
stop saying his
advanced.
name out loud then.
I mean, you can. I mean, I don't think we're big enough to get flagged, but
Nice.
it
Okay.
is also funny to say David Icke because
It's
I
pretty funny.
also don't want people to think I respect or like this guy because he's a crazy asshole and he did give us lizard people, which is great.
Man.
And he does have one extremely salient point, but he is also very crazy. And the problem with conspiracy things as a whole is it's a lot of all or nothing with people. Like,
Mm.
so if I say David Icke or David Icke, I guess it's David Icke. If I say I like David Icke, people are like, "Oh, you like absolutely everything David Icke's ever said." And it's like, no, there
We live
are
in it.
some smart things he said, and there are some very bad things. It's like
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson for conspiracies. It's
We
like
live in
Jordan
an.
Peterson has some wisdom, but he also has a bunch of crazy. And
We
you
live in an.
can like some, but you don't have to like the whole. Sorry,
So
I cut you
no,
off like
that's
three
no, that's
times.
that's fine. You're
You were
trying to
gonna
make
say
your
we
point.
live in.
No, because we live in an era where there's like far less discourse now, and there's no room
Mhm.
to hold tension for things. So it's a very all or nothing framed society that we live in.
Yeah.
So it's you're either with us or against us is taken to the extremes, and there's no room to there's no room to hold tension. You're either woke or you're an asshole. It's that thing we've talked about before.
Yeah, you're either a
It's
woke or a fascist.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
It's funny, man. We were talking about David Icke, and like
yeah,
I've listened to a ton of bands, a million bands, a million years. One of my favorite bands, Leatherface. They have a song, and they actually mentioned David Icke in it. The song's from like 1993,
oh yeah, dude, he's
and
been around.
yeah, and I know that he's been around, but like I remember listening to this song in the 90s and like not really. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Some guy from England, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
former footballer, and I don't know.
Footballer.
And like, yeah, until I started doing this podcast with you, I'm like starting to
Mm-hmm.
notice people talking about like conspiracy shit and songs that I've listened to and like over my lifetime, and I'm like, oh, this can't be happening. So
It's like
anyway,
when you start driving a car and then you notice it everywhere. That's with conspiracies.
yeah, totally,
It's
yeah,
like the red yarn just starts attaching to itself, and then you're like, oh wait, I saw this here, and it comes up here,
yeah.
and it's like I don't know if it's like, are there that many coincidences, or are you just putting them together and like drawing lines between them? I was going to say on your other point about how we have way less discourse now. It's kind of funny because everybody's got this like infatuation with podcasts and conversation media and stuff where we're listening to people talk for up to 3 hours at a time, but we're still in this weird thing where people are talking way less.
Hmm.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah.
So I guess
Yeah,
what it is, it's people are talking to people they like the same more, but talking like
like a natural
across.
algorithm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
totally.
So I'm going to start with Joseph Plummer from Tragedy and Hope 101. This is what he says false flags are. They're
Okay.
dubbed the most immoral and effective way to mislead the public. The term false flag usually describes a deadly or immoral act that's planned and carried out by one group, but is made to appear as if it was planned and carried out by another. So that's pretty easy. That's like the reason I started wanting to talk about false flags is what's going on with Russia and Ukraine right now. They keep doing atrocities and they're like, oh, it was the other guys. They were just pretending to be us. And they're like,
Right.
they're like, they're gonna do false flags to us. And it's like just kind of pushing the idea of false flags to like into the zeitgeist. So everybody
Right.
should kind of know that this isn't something new that's
Yeah.
just started up.
The thing I read
Yeah.
just now is it's 16th century is when it started.
Yeah.
Like this is like an
So
old wartime tactic.
yeah, now I'll give you the Wikipedia.
All right.
description, which is the literal description. Like the one I just read was more of like the military false flag, the like
Yeah.
one what it means now. So this is what Wikipedia had. A false flag operation is an act committed with the intent of disguising the actual source of responsibility and pinning blame on another party. The term false flag originated in the 16th century as an expression meaning an intentional misrepresentation of someone's allegiance. The
Right.
term was famously used to describe a ruse in naval warfare, whereby a vessel flew the flag of a neutral or enemy country in order to hide its true identity. The tactic was originally used by pirates and privateers to deceive other ships into
Right.
allowing them to move closer before attacking them. It later was deemed an acceptable practice during naval warfare, according to international maritime laws, provided the attacking vessel displayed its true flag once the attack had begun. The term today extends to include countries that organize attacks on themselves and make the attacks appear to be by enemy nations or terrorists, thus giving the nation that was supposedly attacked a pretext for domestic repression of foreign military aggression.
Okay. Yeah.
So something interesting that was brought up here was that it became like when they started doing it, like you could put up, say, pretend to be someone else, and it was acceptable. And that was in the 16th century where maritime law made it acceptable. And it was a totally acceptable thing up until about, I want to say, like World War I with the Geneva Convention, where they just
Yeah.
like World War I was so bad that all the world leaders met and they're like, all right, we
got to do something about how we engage with one another. Yeah, totally.
We can't just go nuts like this because fucking like you still can't go to parts of France from World War I, and that was just regular ammunition.
Right.
It's so poisoned and stuff. So I think it was like the Geneva Conventions where they banned
like grenades and like automatic weapons and crap. There was like a bunch of stuff that was banned.
Yeah, and like exploding heads and stuff.
Yeah.
So like now
Agent Orange, mustard gas, all that stuff. The stuff that was like really, really bad for people.
So because of these meetings, you can't use like toxic gas or bioweapons on people. When you shoot someone with a bullet, you can't have hollow points. You have to have ones.
Right.
I don't know if this specifically is from the Geneva Convention, but it is like you have to have full metal jackets so it goes through because they basically came up with these gentlewoman rules on engagement where it's like you don't want to kill the other soldiers, you just want to take them out of action. So that's their like you don't want to shoot them in the chest and their whole back blows off. You want it to go through the chest so that they can't fight anymore, but they're still alive and they can recover. I don't know why they don't just have paintball wars.
Oh, right. Okay.
But
yeah, so it does like the convention also prohibits torture, assaults on personal dignity, and execution without judgment. So you can't like kill wounded soldiers. You need to let the wounded alive. There's basically like 4 conventions and 3 protocols. Interesting. Yeah.
So the way this pertains to false flags is before World War I, you were still allowed to be like, I'm a totally different person. And as long as you were like, surprise, I'm these guys before you attacked, that was allowed. But now,
was allowed,
after the Geneva Convention, they're like, this is ridiculous. And one of the things that they said was you can't have the wrong markings on planes and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So they're against it. So that's why all of my examples of false flags are 1915 on.
Right.
So, and then I wanted to hit you with that David Icke, David Icke. Here's a big quote, and this is, sorry, I'm just gonna. This is pretty much the smartest thing David Icke ever came up with was, I don't know if it's like something he came up with out of the blue, but it is something he put into a really good point, and that's problem, reaction, solution. So this is basically a big quote explaining us, and this is like kind of why people do false flags and stuff. So this is the 6th time I'm going to read this quote.
Okay, sweet. 6 times a charm. You know what they say.
Yeah, baby. The full admission, the first 3 times I tried to read this quote, it was me fucking it up. And then my internet was like, As soon
like,
as I
nope.
got through 3 sentences, they're like, "Fuck off, Dale." Blah, blah, blah. And then it just
It's
shat
your
itself.
FBI guy.
It
Your
is.
FBI guy's like, he's saying David Icke. Cut him off.
He keeps trying to quote David Icke. Shut it down.
It's that Dangerous Dale show again.
Yeah. The Dale Show, reaching all those listeners, letting them know the truth.
Oh my God.
They're like,
awesome.
we let him have alien war.
we gave him alien war, and this is too much. This has gone too far.
He just took it. We gave him an inch, and then he took a mile.
He took a mile. Yeah, he just could not let it go. Yeah.
Yeah. We gave him alien war, and now he's trying to take David Icke.
We were cool with the Sasquatch. We were cool with the alien war. We were okay with the cryptids. Yeah. The angels was meh, and now we're coming for you.
Yeah, now that he's talking about the CIA and the FBI, false flags.
Yeah. He already talked about the military far too much. We got to shut him down.
If he gets into the internet. Gay frogs, he's out.
He's out. He's out. We're pulling the plug. Melts. Yeah, just melts. Spontaneous computer combustion.
Okay.
I was just talking about gay frogs, and all of a sudden it started melting.
You know why? Because FBI's homophobic against frogs. They don't want us to talk about the acceptance of gay frogs.
No, they don't.
Okay. If anybody's actually being like, what the fuck are they talking about? Alex Jones had this thing where, what's a famous Alex Jones quote where he's like, they're leaking chemicals into the water that make the friggin' frogs gay.
Yeah.
So
something like that.
It turned out to be true because it made the frogs switch sexes. So they didn't turn into homosexuals. They just swapped their sexes like in Jurassic Park.
I thought that's how they were operated anyway, frogs.
I
always thought they're asexual.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I want to think that the Budweiser toads clapping some frog cheeks. Is that how it works? The toads are the dudes and the frogs are the girls?
I don't think so. No, I think toads and frogs are just two different species.
All right, I'm gonna go back.
It's not like a bull and a cow situation, or like a rooster and a hen situation.
Two different things.
They are, yes, they are. But I don't think that's toads and frogs are different things. Yeah.
Okay, so this is.
I like where you're going. I like where you're trying. Okay, let's hear it. Okay, this time you got it.
I mean, we could talk about frogs having sex more with other frogs of the same sex.
That's not the. No, just do the quote.
Non-gender specific frog relationships.
Asexual frog humping.
Yeah,
let's do it. Yeah. It's 3 episodes removed from Mommy Milkers and Sasquatch Milkers. We're now on gay froggage.
LBG toads.
Oh boy. Now the FBI is coming for us.
Yeah, they are, and all the special interest groups. So this is according to David Icke. When there's a problem in the world, we say, what are they going to do about it? At which point they, who have secretly created the problem in the first place, respond to this demand by introducing a solution. More centralization of power and erosion of freedom. If you want to give more powers to the police, security agents, and military, and you want the public demand you do it, then ensure there is more crime, violence, and terrorism. And then it's a cinch to achieve your aims. Once the people are in fear of being burgled, mugged, or bombed, they will demand that you take their freedom away and protect them from what they have been manipulated to fear. Create the problem, encourage the reaction, something must be done, and then offer the solution. It is summed up by the Freemason motto, Ordo ab chao, order out of chaos. Create the chaos and then offer the way to restore order. Your order. The masses are herded and directed by many and various forms of emotional and mental control. And that's David Icke.
Yeah. Yeah, then, and I mean that's not that's not a new it's not a new concept by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I know. I just like that quote.
No, it's a great quote.
Sums it up.
Great quote.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And the whole like
Happily trade your freedoms for comforts, right? That's the
yeah.
whole, that's what we're getting into.
Oh, what's that
We all
super
do
good
it on
quote
some
where
level.
it's like whoever would trade their freedom for security deserves neither? Some like
Yeah,
old
there's a
president
bunch.
quote.
There's a line in a Frank Turner song too that quotes something along the lines of, yeah,
Is that
if
more
ever
old
I'm
guy
at,
music?
yeah, it's more old guy music.
Who's
It's
Frank Turner?
oh my god, do yourself a favor and go get yourself into some Frank Turner after the show.
Well, I'll do that,
There's a
sir.
song for every mood.
Nice.
Yeah,
So what we've been talking about so far is the false flags, and we're mostly talking about people pretending to be someone else so they could blame those other people. But there are actually other forms of false flags that, like, I don't know if they're called false flags, but they're kind of in the realm of false flags. Like there's this thing called stand down, and that's where you antagonize another group, and then when they attack, you don't fight back, so that they end up um, doing a worse attack than they would have. A good example of this is the January 6th attack. I'm not
oh,
saying
here we
that was a
go.
false flag, but what I'm
Right.
saying is there's some hanky shit going on, because in real time, as you were, if you were paying attention to the January 6th before it happened, like Trump was like, hey, Washington, do you want us to send in the National Guard? And the mayor of Washington was like, no, we got this. We don't need your help, because they hate Trump. They're like, we don't need Trump's
Yeah.
help. And then when all the people started going to the gates, there's like a video evidence of stuff of the police actually opening the doors and letting them in. And
Right.
I don't know if this was a stand down false flag, or it was more of a they're gonna fucking go crazy and break shit anyway, so we might as well be peaceful and let them in anyway. And for the most part, most of the people, like who's that guy who wore the bison head? He has like
Oh,
a quiche name or whatever.
I've
Anyways,
I've blanked that from my memory, but I remember reading a bunch about that. Like
mhm.
he was like a member of some other organization as well. I can't remember
Yeah,
exactly
basically
what
all
it
he
was.
did was go through and stick inside the velvet ropes and go through and be like, oh, I'm in the Capitol. And then he got thrown in jail for a long time. And there was no like actual terrorism acts inside the
Right.
Capitol. Like there was a couple, because there was like dudes with zip ties on their belt, and then like a couple police officers got killed, and then one January 6th person got killed. But
Shake,
other than like
shake
for
and
what
jelly.
happened and how many people were involved and a storming of a giant crowd, there was a lot. There was a very small amount of violence, which I'm happy for. I'm glad
Didn't
it was
yeah?
that small.
Didn't
But
they
I'm
break
just, yeah.
into like somebody's, like Nancy Pelosi's cabinet or something? That was like
Yeah,
the
they
biggest thing that happened.
they stole her laptop.
Oh, that's what it was, right?
And
Yeah.
and a lot of people were at first were like, this was the whole reason for January 6th, was it was cover
Just to
for
get
some secret
data.
group to go in and grab it. But then
Right.
nobody ever talked about it again. It was
Yeah.
almost like Hunter Biden's laptop, where it was just like, this is a thing that happened, but we're not going to talk about it. Um, and then
I don't even know what yeah.
there's another one where it's like it doesn't really have its own name, but it's like when a government or something creates a terrorist group, and then they kind of like the was it Mujahideen? What was that one? What was the Taliban before it was the Taliban? With Osama bin Laden, where the states
Like
created them.
honestly,
So the states like armed them and stuff. Watch the movie Charlie Wilson's War. That's what it talks about.
okay.
But it was like they took bin Laden and they gave him arms to fight off the Russians who were trying to invade Afghanistan. And then they become a terrorist group, turn into the Taliban, and they'll blow up the world towers afterward. So kind of a false flag thing to do is you create this terrorist group, let them go unchecked, and then when they rise up and start doing
Mhm.
terrorist shit, you have just a clear path. You're like, look, we got to go fucking do something about these shitty terrorists. Let's go
Right.
kill 1 million people with the Desert Storm wars and shit.
Man,
This is a
it
bummer.
yeah, it like, and it kills me to think about like
Yeah.
how just insidious that whole
Yeah.
that whole concept is. It's just fucking like to even think that there's people that are capable of doing that. And like, I don't know, it reminds me of that George Bush quote. in the 90s where he's like, our enemies will stop at nothing to harm us, and neither will we. Right? And it's like, oh, did he mean to say that, or was it
Yeah, like
or
did he
he
mean
like,
we'll stop at nothing?
was that
to
an
harm you?
accident, or did he mean
Yeah.
that, like, yeah, I know he meant that, did he actually mean that America will stop at nothing to harm their enemies,
Yeah.
or did he mean that America will also harm the American people? Like, it was just one of those weird things where, like, it was never really clear, and it was
Yeah.
never really responded to, especially
See,
in the 90s, like before the internet, right? That was like,
yeah.
that was wild. Yeah.
A real noodle baker is you start thinking about all this shit, like these false flags, and like how the Mujahideen,
Mujahideen.
yeah, without them, would Russia invading Afghanistan actually have been worse than what eventually happened? Like the real mind fuck about all this stuff and the weird shit that goes on through history and how the US is playing world police and all that shit is, would it be worse if they weren't doing all this fucked up shit? Like you want to think that it's just bad and we should stop doing all that, but it's like all this weird like manipulations and political shit and terror shit. Like if that doesn't happen, then where are we?
I found the quote. It's, our
Yeah.
enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we.
Oh, that is
That's
gold.
the quote, right?
That's nice.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember that, like, oh my God, yeah, just wild, right? And like everybody in the audience, I remember they gasped.
They're like,
oh, they're like, what the fuck?
That
And he
was
kind
like,
of tried to backtrack, and he's like, oh, you know, of course I mean that in the way that we're going after the, yeah.
Was that George Bush Sr.?
Junior.
Oh, okay, yeah. George Bush, the
George
Bushes
Dubs.
are pretty great because George Bush Sr. has all these like speeches about the New World Order where you're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
They're just
totally
saying that out loud. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, they're not like trying to make it a secret like the World Economic Forum is now
Yeah.
with their great reset where they're gonna help us all out.
I remember you mentioned the skull and bones thing too, right? And what was that other, like the skull, like both of the Bush kids are like part of that organization.
Yeah, the Skull and Bones. It's a secret society out of Yale.
Right.
And the funniest part about that is one of the initiation ceremonies is you crawl into a glass coffin and you jerk off, and the other Skull and Bones members stand around and watch to make sure you do it to completion because one, they're perverts, and why would you join?
That's how I got on this show. This exact same ritual.
Why would you
I have to do this?
Why would you join a secret society if you didn't get to watch someone jerk off, really? But the funny part is that means George Bush Sr. watched George Bush Jr. jerk off in a glass
Oh my
coffin.
God. Yeah.
And I had a pretty strained relationship with my father, but I wouldn't want to be that close with my father.
I definitely, my son's 12, so I just gotta watch what I say here. Like, I'm sure that shit's happening. I just don't want to know about it.
In like 5 years, you like totally forget about this. And he's like, Dad, I got into Yale. Wink. And you're like, what?
I can't afford to send him to Yale. Come on now.
He's like, I got a full ride.
Yeah, I'm like, that shit better be scholarships because I don't have that kind of money.
He's like, innuendo, get it? Full ride.
Talking skull and bones. I'm putting the bones in skull and bones. Oh God,
skull and boners. Hey.
Oh no.
And here I thought we'd be too depressing of a topic to.
Nope, we turned it right around. We turned it right around. Yeah.
Because I hate when we
talk about boners.
Yeah, I hate when we get too dark and be like, society's bad, everything's bad. I don't want to black pill anybody.
Terrible. No,
society's bad. It's horrible. I'm trying not to black pill you because for some reason good always wins in the end. I don't know how it works, but whatever. Actually, if you want to fight secret societies, governments sneaking their hands and stuff, the best way to fight is just to get along with the people around you. Because for whatever reason, every conspiracy, what they're trying to do is split us all up. So if we just get along, that's like the biggest rebellion you can have.
You've been on Twitter, right? It's like, there's no getting along. Everybody's split on Twitter. Even people I know and like, I just was like, okay, cool. I can't
and it's so weird because it's just like an after school special is how you fight. It's like, that's how you fight real evil in the world is you just fucking be nice
get
to
along
each other.
with it.
You goddamn assholes, just be nice. Okay.
Uncle Dale said, where are we at?
Let's start with our first. Now, this one's not a full false flag, but this is kind of the first one. It's 1915, the sinking of the Lusitania, and this is a big factor of getting the U.S. into World War One. So I'll give you this is one of the ones from the history website. So they have a short. I'll just read you the short write-up. The ship was sunk on her 202nd transatlantic crossing on May 7, 1915, by a German U-boat 11 miles, 18 kilometers, off the southern coast of Ireland, killing 1,198 passengers and crew. Crazy thing is, it went across the Atlantic 202 times in 8 years.
That's wild. Man.
One of the things about the Lusitania is it was like the fucking primo Cadillac because it was the fastest ship that Britain had.
Yeah. Isn't it the precursor to the Titanic? Isn't that the whole thing? Like the Titanic was based on the body style of the Lusitania, if I remember.
I mean, it's a boat.
Okay, I'm gonna look that up. You keep going.
Titanic was a boat. So, okay. Although the Lusitania's sinking was a major factor in building American support for war was eventually declared only after the Imperial German government resumed the use of unrestricted submarine warfare against American shipping in an attempt to break the transatlantic supply chain from U.S. to Britain, as well as after the Zimmermann telegram. So Zimmermann telegram is actually the last straw that broke America's back. And what had happened was Germany sent a telegram to Mexico's president, I want to say. Yeah, I think it was they had a president back then.
Yeah, it'd be a president. Still be be a president.
The telegram basically said, yo, join us. We're gonna take over. If you help us take over the states, we'll split up this, we'll give you back Texas, California, and New Mexico. And then, of course, the U.S. got a hold of this, and the Germans didn't know that they had broken their code. And U.S. was like, these dirty fucks. They're in our own backyard. We're going to go get them. And then that's why they went into World War One. But the Lusitania was, who was the guy in Britain at the time? It was like
Churchill?
Yeah, Churchill was actually, this is where it's kind of a false flag, was the Lusitania was a passenger ship that was just running supplies and passengers, but Churchill put a whole bunch of weapons in it because one, it's the fastest, so you could get weapons around, and two,
it's quick travel.
He didn't want Germany to sink it, but he realized that if Germany sank it, it would bring America into the war.
Gotcha.
So he's like, that's another reason why, this didn't say, but there's I think there's a couple hundred Americans who died on the Lusitania when it sunk, and that's one of the main reasons. So he did put American passengers on the ship with ammo on purpose because he knew it would drag America into the war.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it was, okay.
Allegedly. Sorry, I don't know what his
thoughts were. Yeah. You don't know if
but that's what experts say happened.
Experts. Heavy on the spurting.
Hey.
Oh.
Okay, so that's kind of like a loose false flag, but the Reichstag fire. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, go ahead. No, I was just going to say that's a little bit, like in terms of a false flag, that's not like the traditional definition, but I see how that makes a false flag call, for sure.
So the Reichstag fire, this is the one that everybody points to because it's Nazi Germany, and everybody hates Nazi Germany, so they don't care spilling their secrets and be like, of course Nazi Germany did false flags. Us good guys don't do that shit, but here's
we don't ever do that.
So the Reichstag fire took place on the night of the 27th of February, 1933. A lone communist sympathizer called Marinus van der Lubbe was arrested and charged with setting fire to the German parliament building. This gave Hitler and his propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels the excuse they needed to purge Germany of opposition, especially The communists, the sweeping emergency powers Hitler and the Nazi Party grabbed for themselves after the fire, are the reason many people think the Reichstag was burned, not by alone communists protesting Germany's treatment of the working classes, as von Lube himself claimed while in custody, but by the Nazis themselves.
Mm.
And this is what what's his face, the guy who this is what Joseph Plummer said in Truth and Hope 101, or Tragedy and Hope 101. He said, the day after the fire, Hindenburg, the president of Germany, signed a decree suspending all civil liberties and giving the government power to invade any personal privacy, including the right to search private homes and the right to confiscate property. At once, all communist members of the Reichstag, as well as thousands of others, were arrested. Most of the Nazis aware of the plot were murdered during the blood purge of June 30th, 1934.
Such a great name.
Yeah. The blood
The
purge.
Purge.
So
Yeah.
not only was it a false flag that they got as an excuse to get rid of all the communists in Germany, but then afterwards, like a year late, or not a year, like a year,
Yeah, a
15
year later.
months later,
Yeah.
like February to June, whatever, they killed all the Nazis
Yeah.
who knew about it. So they're covering their tracks.
Wow. Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. Yeah, so that's it's kind of like another one that's like I guess false flag's not like there's not like a true and proper definition. These things are falling in like relatively close.
Well, this one, I think what they were saying was it was actually not the communist guy who set it on fire. It was a Nazi dressed up
A
as
Nazi.
a communist.
Yeah, totally.
Because they said that this guy, what was his name? Luby, or Van der Lube.
The
Dutch, by
Lubster.
the way. Dutch pride.
If you ain't Dutch, you ain't much.
Hey, apparently he claimed he was in custody the whole time. So they blamed it on him. And this is a very important one because this is kind of when the Nazis started taking over the parliament in Germany in between in the interwar period, if you want to sound like a grown up.
That was very grown up, very adult of you, Dale. The interwar period. This is very college Dale.
Yeah. Okay. So now
are you in the Skull and Bones at Yale?
You haven't seen the video, have you?
I have not yet. Been looking for it.
You've heard of dick pics. How about masturbation videos in a glass coffin?
The glass coffin. Oh man! And then the new guy has to clean out the glass coffin.
Oh man! I need more Windex.
Oh god, that's terrifying. Oh.
The smell.
Put that luminol away. No one wants to see the splatter patterns.
I mean, back in the old days, because Skull and Bones started in the 1890s. Could you imagine cleaning jizz off glass back then? Now you could just pressure wash it, but back then,
you just have like one cloth to work with. It was like an old rag.
Yeah. Gross. And by candlelight.
Yeah, stop. Moving right along.
All right.
The glass coffin anymore. It's terrible.
Okay, so next we're going to 1939. This is still pre-World War II, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
Oh yeah.
It ends in 1946, so it's all leading up to it.
Yeah, this is right before it. So this is 1939, the Winter War. The Russian village of Manila.
Here we go.
It's not Manila because that's
Manila.
Was so this is the Russian village of Manila. It's spelled Mainila. Was shelled by an unknown party. The village was close to the border with Finland, and the attack was used as an excuse to break the Soviet Union's non-aggression pact with the country and launch an invasion into Finland that would later become known as the Winter War. It was eventually concluded by both British and Russian historians that the shelling of the village was a false flag operation carried out by members of the NKVD, the predecessors of the KGB.
Right.
That's the secret police of Russia. As a result of the war between the Soviets and the Finns, Finland sided with Nazi Germany in World War II. So yeah, there you go. That's before.
Right.
And then in the same year, 1939 was apparently a good year for fucking false flags.
Sweet.
We go to Operation Himmler, named after Himmler
Yeah.
himself. It consisted of a group of 1939 false flag undertakings planned by Nazi Germany to give the appearance of Polish aggression against Germany. The Germans then used propaganda reports of the events to justify their invasion of Poland, which started on 1st of September 1939. Prior to the 1939 invasion, German newspapers and politicians like Adolf Hitler carried out a national and international propaganda campaign accusing Polish authorities of organizing or tolerating violent ethnic cleansing of ethnic Germans living in Poland. Does this sound familiar?
Yeah.
Like Putin's whole excuse to go into
Sounds
Ukraine?
vaguely familiar. Yeah.
The goal of this false flag project was
Yeah.
to create the appearance of Polish aggression against Germany, which could be used to justify the German invasion of Poland. Hitler also might have hoped to confuse Poland's allies, the United Kingdom and France, into delaying or stopping their declaration of war on Germany. So this is kind of why, if you look back at historical effects, when Hitler invaded Poland, France and England didn't really do anything, and this is why, because of all this propaganda,
Yeah.
they didn't know for sure that the Polish weren't actually aggressive. So
Yeah.
the operations were carried out by agents of the Secret Service, the SS. That's what it stands for, right?
No, it's not. It's a German. It's the SS is two German words. It's
Oh,
look it up. You keep going.
okay. The operations were carried out by agents of the SS and the SD. The German troops dressed in Polish uniforms would storm various border buildings, scare the locals with inaccurate shots, carry out acts of vandalism, retreat, and leave behind dead bodies in Polish uniforms. The bodies were really prisoners from concentration camps who were dressed in Polish uniforms, killed by lethal injection, shot for appearance, and left behind. On the night of 31st of August, a small group of German operatives dressed in Polish uniforms and led by Alfred Najaux seized the Gleiwitz radio station and broadcast a short anti-German message in Polish. Sources vary on the content of the message. Several prisoners, mostly likely from the Dachau concentration camp, and a local Polish Silesian activist arrested a day earlier, were left dead on the scene in Polish uniforms. So basically, what the Germans were doing was they would go at night by a city and then they would just shoot everywhere. And then they would run away and be like, hey, we're Polish. And then they would just leave behind dead Polish soldiers.
God,
So people would be like, of course it was Polish people.
Polish
They're right
people.
here and they're dead.
Yeah.
We don't know who shot them or
Yeah.
how they got dead when they were running away after they were shooting at us, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Oh, that's really terrible. And again, this predates like video surveillance or any of that things, right? So they could get away with stuff like that quite a lot easier. Point of reference: the SS from Nazi Germany is Schutzstaffel, and it means protection squadron. So that's why they're called stormtroopers, because that S on there.
Damn.
So there you go.
Schutzstaffel?
Schutzstaffel. SCHUTZSTAFFEL.
Sounds too close to waffle.
It does, or like stroopwafel, like in your language.
Yeah, the stroopwafel. The Dutch, so good.
So good.
It's like a cookie and a waffle.
At the same time, it's chewy and sweet and delicious, and it's not wearing a uniform and killing Polish people and leaving them for dead.
Okay, so after 1939, the war starts. Everybody knows what happens with World War II, so we're going to leave that behind because we've already been bummers enough and we don't want to talk about all that stuff.
It's funny, man. Like, I know nothing about World War I, and our generation knows everything about World War II. It's all we grew up with, right? And a little bit about Vietnam, but not a ton, right? And
actually, you know that movie, The Kingsman?
Yeah, I haven't watched that yet. I've watched the first two, I think.
It is actually accurate in explaining how World War I started, because it was the assassination of Franz Ferdinand in somewhere.
Yeah.
See,
Spain,
the problem with me is I learn about history and then it just floats away.
Yeah, it goes away.
I learned the history of World War I, but I don't remember it. I know Franz Ferdinand's the guy He was the
Yeah.
Archduke of Austria, I want to say. And he
Austria,
got
that's it. Yeah.
assassinated in a different country.
So
It was weird, wild.
no, but so I guess the point I was trying to make is like our generation heavily knows about World War II. Like we grew up with that, was like Remembrance Day. People who are our age really saw that. But like now, here in 2022, I think there's the last veteran of that war died last year.
Mm-hmm. I
There's like
think
no
you're
one
right.
alive.
Yeah.
There's no one alive anymore who participated in that war. So like my
Yeah.
son is going to know nothing about World War II. He's 12 years old. He won't know about World War II. He'll grow up with the Gulf Wars being the historical thing that's taught, because
That's
it's like the
true.
most recent war historical. The conversation came from when you said, I'm not going to talk about World War II because everybody knows about that. Everybody our age knows about that. Anybody younger than us is probably not going to know a lot about how World War II started. But I think they're going to know enough and have enough context about how World War II started.
World War II is covered quite
extensively
in video games.
Yes.
Is your son not a gamer?
He is, but he plays Minecraft, and that's his big jam.
Better.
He loves to. Well, it is better. He loves to create and like build things, which is I'm very proud of him for that. But like, he's not much for the shoot 'em up games. So he got me addicted to Fortnite. And now he doesn't play anymore.
My nephew, I think he's the same age as your son.
Yeah.
He's like deep into the war games and like reading books about like soldiers and stuff. And it's like, it's at that point.
My son asked me, he's not much of a violence guy. It's really funny because like he's like, I remember when we were kids, it's like we played GI Joes where we were like literally murdering each other's action figures, right? And then like my son was like, I want to watch wrestling. I was like, okay, cool. I'll get a classic wrestling pay-per-view. So we got a classic, we called up a classic wrestling match on there. And he was like so stoked to watch it because he thought it looked really fun. And then we started watching. He's like, Dad, these guys are hurting each other. We need to stop watching this. And I was like, okay, but it's like totally fake. They're not really.
It's fake,
like,
but
it's
they
fake-ish.
still hurt each other.
They do still hurt each other. But yeah, I'm not going to say that it's not fake. But you know what I mean, right? It's not. And it was too violent for him to watch wrestling. And so like we had a Wii, and I had like one of those Call of Duty games on the Wii a long time ago when he was younger, and I was playing it, and he didn't really like how that was going down either. And that's like a World War II game. So
that's crazy.
Yeah,
like
he wasn't really
was he ever into like gladiators and stuff from Rome?
No, he's not into any of that stuff.
Wow,
so he's into like construction and building and soccer, and that's it. That like tops out his interests.
Because I remember, as long as I can remember,
I was always into
like I was always into like Roman soldiers and like
totally
historical warfare and stuff.
I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Like, I still know exactly what a phalanx is and how to pull it off if I had to, and organize people into a phalanx if necessary, right? Like the shield wall and the turtle, and put the shield up and drop the other shields down in front of you. You march forward, and like all this stuff from Roman history that we learned when we were in high school. I'm like, well, I don't know why I need to know this stuff. I totally don't, but it's awesome and it's super cool. Spear sticking out the front, charge in, arrows can't get you. It's perfect. It's beautiful.
Maybe they don't teach them that in school anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Like, because there's no way I would have found out about Roman soldiers and stuff. Or maybe it's because I went to church and they talked about
Roman soldiers a lot in church, man.
Yeah,
a lot
that might
in
be
church.
it.
Right?
Definitely didn't get the right lessons they intended out of those.
No, man. The whole thing with church when we were growing up was like they were talking about how the Christians were taking over the Roman Empire. That was like the whole big jam, right? It's like, we're getting rid of the Romans, right? The Romans were assholes. The Romans killed Jesus, blah, 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 right? Like that was the whole thing.
They're like, this is how they were violent. They had armor and swords and they fought tigers. And you're like, wait.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That a little bit more?
Yeah. No, because they brought that up as bad, right? Because Christianity is the meek shall inherit the earth. And my brother, you were my brother in Christ. And the Romans were like, they ruled by fear and power. And that's not the way to do it. The way to do it is by the glory and grace of God, and embracing your brother and doing it together. And you're just like, wait, I want to talk about the lions and the gladiators again. That sounds rad.
And they're like, this guy wore this helmet.
This dope helmet.
And they threw this fish net at a guy.
A net with blades in it. I'm like, tell me more about the net with blades in it. I want to see a guy get shredded. Yeah, totally. They don't talk about that anymore.
Oh, I just burped right up my nose.
Oh, the worst. The worst.
I was trying to be like secret about it, and I just gave myself, that made my eyes water.
I got what?
Maybe I should stop drinking fake beer on the pod. I burp too much. I
You burp
quit
too much?
drinking kombucha when I pod because I burped too much, but
And now the near beer is doing it. I had one
Mhm.
burp from my bargain bin Sprite, but when it was pretty quick. So I don't drink anymore. Like I don't drink alcohol anymore at all. It's weird.
Oh, really? Are you
Yeah.
interested in near beers at all?
Yeah, I don't really. Regular beer gives me heartburn. I don't see why near beer would also not give me heartburn.
It
I don't know.
probably
It's
would.
on the water and the coffees
Yeah, water
and
and
the
coffee's good.
occasional sody pop.
Yeah, I drink near beer instead of pop,
Yeah,
I guess, because near beer only has like 30 calories for
yeah.
some of
Pop
them,
can have like a shocking amount of calories in
27 grams of sugar. That no
it.
thanks.
I got addicted to the coffee cokes for a little bit there. So
Oh, those are so good.
they're so good. They're so good.
Oh, they
Oh
taste like those little cola candies. I
yeah,
love
yeah, totally.
those.
They do. They taste exactly like that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. Anyway, I digress.
All right, back to more depressing false flag stuff.
Okay, cool. We have to take
Um,
these little comedy breaks every few minutes so we get back, so we don't get
yeah,
horribly marred by
get
the
all
content of this
bummed
podcast.
out. What time are you good for?
Oh,
Good for a
good.
while still?
Nothing. Yeah, I can go to probably 9ish, and then I'll have to go pee and get out of this hot room.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough of this to bust into 2 episodes.
Perfect.
So I'll
Let's get.
skip. How's this? I'll skip Operation Gladio because that's a
Okay.
huge chunk.
Are there
And then we'll
gladiators
bring.
involved in that?
No, it's just
Okay, yeah,
Italian.
skip it then.
It's
Yeah.
just Italian Secret Service and NATO and stuff. Pretty bummer. I'll talk about it. I'll talk
Hey!
about it a bit,
Okay,
but I won't go into depth about it. I'll
cool.
read the tragedy and hope breakdown of it, but I won't read the Wikipedia breakdown.
Perfect. Let's do that.
Okay, so we just covered. Okay, if you're like me and you've listened to enough Joe Rogan, you've obviously heard about Operation Northwoods. Are you familiar with this one?
No, I'm not.
So this is 1962. This is a good one because this is like they have proof of this and they know it happened, but JFK was a good guy and he shot it down. So the proposed but never executed 1962 Operation Northwoods plot by the U.S. Department of Defense for a war with Cuba involves scenarios such as fabricating the hijacking or shooting down of passenger and military planes. Specifically outlined was having a U.S. airliner remotely controlled. They were going to have false cockpit transmissions to make it appear that Cuba had shot down the plane filled with students on vacation. There is also plans for the sinking of a U.S. ship in the vicinity of Cuba, burning crops, sinking a boat filled with Cuban refugees, attacks by alleged Cuban infiltrators inside the United States, and harassment of U.S. aircraft and shipping, and the destruction of aerial drones by aircraft disguised as Cuban MiGs. These actions would be blamed on Cuba and would be a pretext for an invasion of Cuba and overthrow Fidel Castro's communist government. It was authored by the Joint Chiefs of Joint
Steves of
Chiefs
Chaff. Steves of
Joint
Chaff.
Steves of Chaff. Yeah, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but then rejected by I was doing so good at reading. I was getting cocky because I was reading. I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
you're
I'm
reading
reading so
so
good.
good. You were in a zone and then you just fell apart.
I
Yeah,
was like, I could almost have an adult podcast with all
just
this
about.
reading out loud I'm doing.
So
And then I
close.
can't say the word president.
And then the American prostitute.
The
Sorry, dude.
president,
The
prostitute
president.
president.
Nice. The prostitute president.
So
Oh
it
my
got
God.
rejected by President John F. Kennedy.
Oh, I'm gonna reject this. This is ridiculous.
This
we
fucking
gotta
we
reject
can't have
this.
drones being shot down.
Don't do it on the Cuba. Oh, Cuba. Sorry,
The surprise discovery of the documents relating to Operation Northwoods was a result of the comprehensive search for records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy by the Assassination Records Review Board in the mid-1990s. That kind of slipped into Robin Leach.
You sound like Robin Leach from
Yeah.
Yes, very Robin Leach from Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Very much so.
Champagne and Kennedy dreams.
Killing children on a lovely aircraft.
And do you want to know something scary, Geoff? Here's where the secret
Always.
time comes in. So you know how I said that was approved by the president, Joint Chiefs
The
of Staff.
president, I believe you said.
Yeah,
Yeah. The
the
Joint Steves
presidential
and the
is.
president.
Are they called the presidential? Anyways, the
Yeah, the presidential Joint
Joint
Chiefs of Staff.
Chiefs of Staff.
Yeah.
The guy who actually authored it and came up with the plan was Staff General Lyman Lemnitzer. He was soon appointed, and
Seriously?
then
Is that
yeah,
also the guy who invented Sprite?
yeah.
Lyman
So
Lemon, sir.
Lyman Lemnitzer. So he was
Oh my
shit
God, I'm
canned because
sorry.
JFK is like, we can't fucking do all this crazy bullshit, you assholes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, hey, you want to go to Dallas? And then he did. But before
Ooh,
JFK went to
too
Dallas,
soon.
and
Yada yada yada.
convertibles
Back into
highly
the lab.
overrated in Dallas, I gotta say.
Convertibles, highly overrated.
So he shit cans this Lemnitzer guy, and you're like, good. That guy came up with all this scary bullshit. I'm glad he's gone. But you know what his job after that was? He was appointed the Supreme Allied Commander of NATO.
Oh my God.
And
So cool.
NATO and the CIA, in a little evil team up of secret shit, started Operation Gladio.
Okay.
So I wanted to bring up Operation Gladio because NATO did some bullshit that people should know about in case NATO is doing some other bullshit at some other time that I don't want to talk about, because then I don't want to be an immediately classified alt-right Russian supremacist apologist. But yeah. So anyways, NATO doesn't have clean hands throughout history. That's all I'm going to say. So Operation Gladio was from 1956 to 1990. And here I'm going to open up with a quote, since I just did so good at reading out loud.
You did so good at reading.
Okay.
I believe in you. You got this, man.
This quote is by Vincenzo Vinciguerra.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Jeff.
Do it up. It's okay.
Okay.
I live in North Burnaby.
There you go. You had to attack civilians, the people, women, children, innocent people, unknown people far removed from any political gain. The reason was quite simple: to force these people to turn to the state and ask for greater security. This is the logic behind the massacres and the bombings that remain unpunished, because the state cannot convict itself or declare itself responsible for what happened. And that's Vincenzo Vinciguerra, a Gladio linked terrorist.
Jeez.
And that's just like fucking classic false flag shit right there. Yeah. So
that's true definition stuff.
Yeah. So basically what Operation Gladio was the CIA and NATO came up with these secret police in they've only proven like Italy, Belgium, and I can't remember one more, but what
like a handful of Euro countries.
Yeah. So okay, let me see. Okay, I'll just start reading through. I'll read to you how we found out about Operation Gladio, because this is why Gladio is important, because it's all true and you could just go on the fucking internet and read about it.
Man.
So in 1984, this is like recently, 1984, Judge Felice Cashon began digging into an unsolved crime, a car bomb from attack on Pitiano, Italy in 1972 that killed 3 police officers and seriously wounded another. The Italian government never managed to find terrorists involved. Cashon, while investigating the incident, so basically what happened was there was a car bombing in 1972. The government was like, it was fucking terrorists, those jerks. And then they're like, but they got away. We never caught them. So we're moving on. We're just going to say it was terrorists. And then it never said why in 1984, this Judge Felice Cashon guy was like, I'm going to solve this cold mystery or this cold file. So he goes in. The Italian government never managed to find the terrorists involved. Cashon, while investigating the incident, found numerous blunders and mistakes that had derailed the original investigation. One of which was a deliberately falsified report on the type of explosive used in the attack. Marco Moran, the explosives expert for the Italian police, had reported that the bombs used were the same as used by the communist regime, the Red Brigade. But this was false. Cashin it doesn't say how he was able
Yeah, it
to
doesn't.
prove it,
Right.
but he's just like,
Or why it was false.
yeah. Well, he knows it's false because he proves that, because the basically what happened was Marco Moran, the police like bomb expert, was like, yeah, these are the same bombs
Okay. Right. Okay.
that the Red Brigade has been using, and they're communist terrorists.
Yeah.
So Cashin was able to prove that the explosive used were actually C4. And this is the same explosive used by NATO at the time. Moran was part of the far right Ordina Nuevo, or New Order. Cashin further proved that the Ordina Nuevo, along with the Italian Secret Service, had planned the bomb and blamed it on the Red Brigade. The man who planted the bomb was Vincenzo Vinciguerra. That's who I read.
That's
the
our
quote
boy.
of.
Yeah.
He confessed and testified that he had been covered by an entire network of sympathizers in Italy and abroad who would ensure that after the attack, he could escape, which he had done until fucking Hero Cashin figured it all out.
Right.
So the false flag was that this is part of Operation Gladio, because it was like the police force and a guy who was in a far right terrorist cell blamed it on a communist terrorist cell, because I don't know, it's kind of lost now
It's
just
yeah.
how fucking
Yeah.
scared everybody was of communism.
No, it was a huge deal. Like, yeah, like the best example I can give of like how it invaded modern pop culture is that 70s show. Remember that 70s show? They talked about communism all the time on that show, because it was the Cold War and communism was huge. It was the red threat, and it was Russia and China and Cuba are all communist nations. They were all coming for the US. They were going to try and impose their values on the United States. So like all through the 70s, 80s, and even the early 90s, communism was so big. People were scared of it. It was the devil, right?
What was that movie? The one where the Russians came?
Red Dawn.
Watch Red Dawn. That's like the fear everybody had.
It is. It's severe. Like I'm like it's kind of a joke because the movie's cheesy, but that's literally what the fear was. Yeah. Red Dawn was like a code name for like the communist takeover in the United States. Yeah.
Okay. So
sorry, I got excited about Red Dawn.
No, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit more on Gladio, 2 more paragraphs, and then we're going to move on because there's a lot of shit. Like, I encourage everybody to go in and check this shit out. So a strategy of tension is apology wherein violent struggle is encouraged rather than suppressed. The purpose is to create a general feeling of insecurity in the population and make people seek security in a strong government. This is supposed to pave the way for a more authoritarian or even neo-fascist government. And this is what Operation Gladio was all about. They were just like trying to fucking like
trying to make the next political party.
Get like
stronger.
The New Order to do a bombing and say it was the communists. So the far right and the communists would hate each other. And then the government would be like, people, we got you. Nobody can go out at night. Blah, blah,
what do we call that first part? Building division. Right? That's
what I was talking about before.
The whole basis.
So don't allow yourself to be alienated by people with different political ideas than you.
They might smell.
That's how they pull this shit.
That's how they get you.
Know, like say one of these guys in the Red Brigade knew a bunch of people in the New Order, which they never would, but this is just an example. Say they're all friends, and then the government says, hey, the New Order just blew up a bunch of Red Brigades, and they would both be like, no, we're all friends. We don't do that shit. But since they all fucking fervently hate each other, they can't just do that simple, like, they wouldn't do that. They're just regular people.
We need a graphic for this segment called Hypothedale.
I like it.
There we go.
Yeah. I'm the new Jesus. Just be nice to each other. That's basically all he said.
It's basically all he said. Yeah. He's right back to full circle again. Don't be an ass.
Maybe a couple hand jobs. Leave
the
too
room.
Serious.
Yeah. Leave room in the conversation for more than one side.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if a guy wants you to watch him jerk off in a glass coffin,
you just
be a gentleman and watch him jerk off.
Yeah. Look, man, all I ask is you watch me jerk off in this coffee. That's all I ask of you. It's not too
Yeah.
much. Is it too much to ask? I don't think
So
it's too much. Yeah,
yeah. The
it's not too
strategy of
much.
tension is most closely identified with the years of lead in Italy from 1968 to 1982, which I didn't know about this before, but Italy was a
Oh
fucking
yeah,
terrible place to be because they just kept blowing each other up. And didn't Italy just elect a far right presidente
yeah. Uh, a
recently?
female presidente who is
Ooh.
a Mussolini advocate.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fucking bad. Mussolini is super
she,
bad.
she said, and I quote, Mussolini was the last great leader that Italy had.
Ooh.
Yeah, and they elected her, and now she's in power.
Yeah, if you don't know who
And
Mussolini is, he
look it
was
up.
the guy who was Hitler's friend and they fucking
They're
almost
pals.
ruined the world forever. Okay,
Benito.
so from 1968 to 1982, wherein both far left Marxist and far right neo fascist parliamentary groups. I don't know why.
Paramilitary mentoring groups.
I got parliamentary and paramilitary groups,
Yeah,
and I
I could
couldn't
see them. Yeah,
say one instead of the other.
I could see the
And then
hamsters fighting in your
I
head.
was trying to say paramilitary when I meant parliamentary. So, you know,
Bing pot. It's trying to
maybe
say
Friday,
bingo.
maybe late night, sexy Friday night is too late for this podcast, but
Dale's
whatever.
yeah. Dale's still thinking about the glass coffin, so he can't get the words out properly. It's like,
It's
as
hard
soon
to
as we're done the
concentrate
podcast,
when you're thinking about fucking
Andrea, get
janitor
in here.
Joe trying to clean those fucking jizz coffins.
That's my face. Oh my god, I'm sorry you had to see that, but that's what it looks like.
I mean, if you think about it, my YouTube channel is just a glass coffin where I
It
jerk
really is.
off.
It's the proverbial glass coffin, and you're
This is
all watching.
yeah, this is me intellectually jerking off. So you can gather how good I am at actual jerking off
Oh my
by
god.
listening to me try to read.
Yeah. That's the thing. That's what I hear. This is like Dale's intellectual jacking off. He's literally reading a Wikipedia page, trying super hard while he's doing
Guys,
it.
you want to hear me read? So this conspiracy happened, and then these bad guys.
Oh,
Oh.
I start reading. Make sure there's a lot of foreign name pronunciation in there that you have to make that stumble on. And then German
Yeah,
names.
that's my next podcast. My next podcast is me doing Duolingo and masturbating at the same time.
3 billion likes, full subscriber. You get a YouTube Gold plaque mailed to you.
If you want to listen to me do Duolingo and jerk off, go to the Patreon account,
an
the Dale
Outrage
Show.
Factory subsidiary podcast.
Yeah.
Dale DeRuiter's glass coffin.
Yeah. So these two groups fighting each other, the neo-fascists and the Marxists, would do bombings, kidnappings, arsons, and murders. So that's all I'm going to talk about. Oh wait.
Sorry.
Yeah. So Gladio is the code name for clandestine stay-behind operations of armed resistance that were organized by the Western Union and subsequently NATO and the CIA in collaboration with several European intelligence agencies. The operation was designed for a potential Warsaw Pact invasion and conquest of Egypt or of Europe. Although Gladio specifically refers to the Italian branch of NATO stay behind organizations, Operation Gladio is used as an informal name for all of them. Stay behind operations were prepared in many NATO member countries and some neutral countries. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And there's a whole bunch more. But yeah, so that ran from 1956 to 1990. And then the reason we know about it was because of the Judge Cashin. But you might remember I said in 1984 he looked it up. And then he released all this shit. But it took another 6 years before people were like, wait, what? So
yeah, and like, well, I mean, because it's kind of it's almost an believable kind of story,
Mhm.
right?
Okay.
I mean, I guess not, but it's yeah. Hey, sorry, go ahead.
So just because I've been picking on the CIA and their bullshit, I just want to point out one that the FBI did that was bullshit, and that
All
is
right.
Cointelpro from 1956 to 1979. And that was a series of covert and illegal projects actively conducted by the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation, aimed at surveilling, infiltrating, discrediting, and disrupting domestic American political organizations. FBI records show COINTELPRO resources targeted groups and individuals the FBI deemed subversive, including feminist organizations, the Communist Party USA, anti Vietnam War organizers, activists of the civil rights movement and Black Power movement, the Nation of Islam, and the Black Panther Party, environmentalists and animal rights organizations, the American Indian movement, Chicano and Mexican American groups like the Brown Berets and the United Farm Workers, independence movements, including Puerto Rican independence groups such as the Young Lords and the Puerto Rican Socialist Party, a variety of organizations that were part of the broader New Left and far right groups such as the Ku Klux Klan and the National States Rights Party. So basically, what they did was they
All the top
went
dogs.
and captured news organizations and stuff, and they just like fucking did all the subversive shit. And you should also look that up. That's your homework is look up Operation Gladio and COINTELPRO.
Nice. That's good homework.
Yeah, there you go. And back to the CIA being shitty.
Okay, here we go. Okay.
So
And
sorry.
action.
Yeah, we fucking lost service again. I don't know. My internet's shitty.
Friday night.
Oh, fuck, I should always restart. Here's everybody out there in Podland. If you're doing podcast shit, always restart your computer before you record every episode. It helps so much shit. I had my
Especially
mic
if you're
sounded
big into
all,
conspiracy theories.
yeah, my mic sounded all fucked up for 2 episodes, and then I restarted my computer and it was fine. And I was
Totally
like,
fine. Weird.
oh
Very
fuck,
weird.
because I was like freaking out because I thought I had to buy a new headset.
You think
but
you're yeah, that's
nope.
an expense you don't want.
Yeah.
In this economy?
Yeah. Okay. So Operation Mockingbird. So yeah, I just talked about the FBI being shitty, and here is the CIA being shitty. And when I said the
Okay.
FBI for COINTELPRO was subversing journalists and stuff, I think I got that mixed up with Operation Mockingbird.
Oh, okay, cool.
So Operation Mockingbird, 1967. Is an alleged large-scale program of the United States Central Intelligence Agency that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate domestic American news media organizations for propaganda purposes. According to author Deborah Davis, Operation Mockingbird recruited leading American journalists into a propaganda network and influenced the operations of front groups. CIA support of front groups was exposed when an April 1967 Ramparts article reported that the National Student Association received funding from the CIA. In 1975, the Church Committee congressional investigations revealed agency connections with journalists and civic groups. Now, if the Church Committee sounds familiar, it's because we talked about it in the MK Ultra.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because
yeah.
The way they figured out of all of MK, the CIA was involved in MK Ultra, where the CIA would give money to different front organizations like that one up in Canada, or
the one in Quebec. Yeah.
Yeah, the one in Quebec, or
Quebec.
in California that I'm forgetting it right now.
Which one?
The medical clinic that Charles Manson went to.
Yeah.
The Highsbury Park, is that right? Hatesbury Park?
Haight-Ashbury?
Haight-Ashbury, yeah, the Haight-Ashbury Clinic. They figured that out because the CIA is actually full of nerds, and they wanted to keep
full of nerds.
They wanted to keep receipts of who they gave money to for whatever reason. And when the leader of the CIA in 1973 started burning all the CIA records. They didn't burn the financial records because those were held in the financial
Right.
part, and there was huge boxes. And then they went through, they checked the receipts, and I think this is what the term "I have the receipts" means, because it showed the CIA giving money to all these different like
Yeah.
journalists and
Yeah.
organizations, and that's how they figured out the CIA had their thumb on
On
journalism.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I fucking got my timeline mixed up. That was 67. This is 64. This should have been before that last one, but this is also another super popular one to come up on the Joe Rogan Experience, is the Gulf of
Oh, here we
Tonkin.
go.
Do you know this one?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know this one. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Not from
probably,
Joe Rogan. I know this from being smart.
yeah, I'd say this is probably the most commonly known
Yeah.
false flag event, and this is basically what got the US into the Vietnam War.
Yes.
So the Gulf of Tonkin was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. It involved both a proven confrontation on August 2nd, 1964, carried out by North Vietnamese forces in response to covert operations in the coastal region of the Gulf, and a second claimed confrontation on August 4th, 1964, between ships of North Vietnam and the United States in the waters of the Gulf of Tonkin.
Right.
Originally, American claims blamed North Vietnam for both attacks. Later investigation revealed that the second attack never happened. The American claim is that it was based mostly on erroneously interpreted communication intercepts. The outcome of these two confrontations was the passage of U.S. Congress of the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which granted U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson the authority to assist any Southeast Asian country whose government was considered to be jeopardized by communist aggression. The resolution served as Johnson's legal justification for deploying U.S. conventional forces to South Vietnam and the commencement of open warfare against North Vietnam. So, those unfamiliar with the Vietnam War, is Vietnam's like a little country in Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, very much so.
and Russia, was it Russia took over, like the big communists at the time
So,
were in North Vietnam, and the non-communist countries of the world like USA, England, they viewed Vietnam as a domino, and they thought that if North Vietnam were to fall to the communists, other countries around the world would be like, hey, communism isn't this bad. Let's all just share and be nice to each other, which everybody thinks communism is, but it's just basically a reworking of the feudal system that they don't tell you.
right.
And then, so that's why they were so horny to defend South Vietnam against North Vietnam.
Right. Yeah. So that's yeah, like South Vietnam is Ho Chi Minh City, and like Da Nang was where the U.S. Air Force Base was,
Mm-hmm.
and then the North Vietnam is Hanoi. That's where all the fighting was for the Vietnam War, if I remember correctly.
And this is a super important war because the U.S. basically got kicked in the dick.
Pretty much, it was that like massive losses kind of thing.
Yeah, and it was like, one of the famous quotes was the president or somebody said, "We're going to bomb them back to the Stone Age,"
Right.
talking about North Vietnam. But it was basically the perfection of guerrilla warfare, where the North Vietnamese were in the jungle and would like make like
way
tiger
ahead of
traps and
the
stuff.
U.S. on
Yeah.
totally punji sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Get their butts handed to them.
Okay, now we're gonna do a couple modern ones, and then we'll discuss, and then we'll get out and see if this episode actually recorded.
Podcast actually worked.
If it doesn't,
sweet.
I'm gonna have a stroke.
Don't have a stroke. Dale,
Okay.
don't have a stroke, Dale.
So here's a subject I usually try to avoid because it's like, it's just a black hole for conspiracies, and that is 9/11.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So this is what people think because a lot of people think 9/11 was a false flag. So, to many online conspiracy theorists, the biggest false flag operation of all time was the 9/11 attacks on the
Yeah.
World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Many believe that these attacks were deliberately carried out by the US government as a way to justify the subsequent attacks on Afghanistan and Iraq, which they
Mm.
believe were carried out to install a gas pipeline across Afghanistan and to seize the oil wealth of Iraq. Many 9/11 truthers point out discrepancies in the official report into the destruction of the World Trade Center, focusing primarily on the collapse of the Twin Towers and the 7 World Trade Center. They argue that the towers could not have been brought down by plane strike and fire alone, but must instead have been brought down by other means, such as controlled demolition. And this is where you'll hear shit like jet fuel doesn't melt steel
Yeah.
beams. I think the most popular documentary on this is Loose Change.
I think I've seen that one.
I haven't seen it.
I've seen a bunch of stuff though about like the scientifically trying to debunk like how there's no way that that's the way it could have burned, right? Like there's more of that than there is like rebuttal or talking about that's the way it actually. Yeah, I know this is a tough one because like it's very fresh for a lot of people still.
So
you know,
as a man who dabbles in metallurgy because I'm a welder, I'm going to say that the steel could have actually been, it didn't melt. What could have happened was, so there's a couple things that happen to steel as it ages. Do you know offhand how old these buildings were?
No, I don't. I can look it up. You talk, I will look it up.
They were like 30 to 40 years at least.
Right? Yeah, totally. So you get metal fatigue over time, especially with buildings that tall and they're waving back and forth in the wind and stuff. When you know about metal fatigue, it happens on cars, it happens on anything that moves that's metal, right?
So basically what Geoff is talking about is metal fatigue. And another thing too is you got to think about when this metal was made. Like if you get a brand new, nice, modern steel is a lot stronger than old steel because the refining process is more exact. And the way to think about it is when you make steel, you get it hot and then there's carbon pieces. Okay, steel is iron with carbon in it.
Yeah.
For in layman's terms. So the way it works is you heat it up and then everything liquefies. And then if you let it cool slowly, it turns into what is called mild steel. And it's only called mild because it's softer. And what that is, it has a little bit of flexibility. So that's why they use it in skyscrapers and stuff.
Yeah.
And
it gives
the
it that
carbon makes grains inside the steel. And when it's heated up and cooled down slowly, the grains are long, so they have a little bit of flex. But if you're trying to make like really hard steel, like for hammers and stuff, you heat it up really fast and then you cool it super fast. So the grains of carbon are super short, but the steel is harder and rigid, but it doesn't bend, it just snaps. So
watch an episode of Forged in Fire.
Yeah. So what I think happened was the steel was old, so some of the carbon had been leached out.
1973 is when it was built. The material started arriving on site in 1970, and it was completed in 1973 for the.
So yeah, the steel's at least 30 years old. Yeah. And what can happen is some of the iron leaches out via rust and stuff.
Yeah.
So what could have happened was the steel was heated up, and then all the water would have came down, and it would have cooled it down
really quickly,
changing the grain structure of the steel, making it more brittle. So
totally.
The steel beams didn't melt, they snapped because when the weight of the floors
the top
fell on it like this, it would have hit it and it would have snapped it. And then like there's this, like the steel would have held up the weight of the floors above it if it was gently pushed down on it. Like when you slap something, like when steel falls or something falls on something, it's called shock loading. And it can actually end up just by like, I don't know, like physics shit. It can end up weighing up to 10 times as much. So those buildings just fall at like those levels fall.
Yeah, the gravity takes over and makes
it would
have
fallen, and when it smacked on the floor below, for like a split second, the weight would have been increased 10 times, and that would just snap the weight, and then it would just accordion all the way down. So I think that's what happened. The shitty, like, so I don't think the 9/11 was a controlled demolition. What I think happened was the Pentagon shit was shady. Like, I think the buildings happened, and then the States was like, oh fuck, this is our chance. Or this is like one of those things where they antagonize the terrorists and then stand down. Because another thing that happened was there's like some $1 trillion or something missing from the US budget. And the part of the Pentagon that holds the records is the part. Oh, getting unstable again.
Yeah, you froze out, but we're back, I think, now.
Okay, it said mine was unstable. So anyways, the part that holds the financial records was the part of the Pentagon that broke. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to close some of my... I'm going to close all my Wikipedia tabs and see if that helps. Because I had like 12 open. Yeah.
That's a considerable amount.
About 9/11?
Honestly, I don't. I remember it very vividly because I was working as a journalist at the time. And I remember my girlfriend at the time phoned me and was like, "You got to turn on the TV right now." And I was it's like, "What? Come on, this is a joke, right?" And then I don't really know. I turned it on, and then I was asked to do like coverage in the afternoon and then stuff. But it was. What do I think of it in terms of? Like, was it a false flag kind of thing?
Was it? What do you think, if anything, was hanky?
I don't know. Honestly, man, I don't know if I know enough about it. I mean, I know it was like, I feel like the biggest piece that's hanky, and I mean, I'll probably catch flack for saying this from somebody, is that like just how that the loss of American life was viewed as like, what was it, 2,000 people or something that died in it. You know, like by comparison, what the U.S. has done in Iraq and the surrounding areas.
I think they say 1 million people have died because of that.
Dude, seriously, it's like the scale is off, right?
Yeah.
Like it's this weird big American tragedy piece for 2,000 people, and I mean, like, we lose 2,000 people monthly here to like drug overdoses and shit. So it's like, I don't know what to make of it, man. I honestly don't know what to make of it.
And another thing to bring up too is that 9/11 gave us the gave the states the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
And that was where they lost a whole bunch
of freedoms, right? So it comes right back to right back to that original thing. Now everyone's scared of Muslims, and it brought on Islamophobia, and like that shit's totally crazy too, right? It's like, it's that more divisive piece. So I'm like, even if it wasn't meant as a false flag, it could be used as a false flag intensifier to make those things happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if it wasn't structured by the US government to be an inside thing to create that chaos, all it did was add fuel to that. Wow, that's a terrible choice of words. It added attaboy, Geoff, well done. But it basically expanded the look how bad these people are, right? And it's like, do you want us to save you from them? Then you have to give up your personal information so that we can go fight this war, right? And you're like, oh, fuck, okay, well, I don't want people flying into my office building, so I will take off my shoes at the airport, or I will put my liquids into 100 milliliter bottles, and I'll go through a stupid TSA thing at the airport forever. Like, it's just, you know what I mean?
You're doing
I'm slamming. Sorry.
Yeah, you're hitting the table a lot. Sorry.
Hitting the table. Nope, sorry. Hitting the table.
We are 2 hours in, and it's
okay. It gets me. I get frustrated by this.
It's getting like pulpit banging. You should have been
a
priest. Bang,
I was actually banging the table.
You were banging, but you were like just setting your hands down and stuff. I think it's just something that you do after we get like over an hour and 45 minutes. And you're just like,
and it's just like, and it's, you're like, it's a sensitive topic too, right? Like, what a loaded question. What do you think of 9/11?
Well, I give my opinion.
Yeah,
I think it was a genuine thing that happened that they
yeah,
just
they just
jumped all over and
absolutely, yeah.
took advantage of the fallout of it.
They turned it into
Yeah.
a messaging
Yeah. I think they
system.
probably just didn't take the threat seriously
Yeah,
because they had like intel saying that people were going to hit something and they're like, they can't. They're
yeah,
fine.
totally.
And I think like Geoff was saying, like 2,000 people died or whatever. Uh, I don't think that was the worst thing to the military. The thing to the military was
The
how much it
Pentagon.
scared them that they
Yeah,
could have a target attacked on their watch, just get through their web of security and just hit right basically at the heart of America,
right.
because that was all like that was like the financial
That
system
is the
was
big,
based
yeah,
in those. Yeah.
yeah, it was. Yeah, that's the New York Stock Exchange. All of that stuff was
Yeah.
part of that, right? Yeah, totally.
Okay.
That's
So
more.
now we got some. Now I just want to go through a couple modern, like after 9/11, like were they one of the other ones that is brought up a lot is Sandy Hook. I don't want to talk about that because
That's a
that's
tough one
one
too.
that's one you just don't touch.
Yeah.
But I do want to say the reason that like basically Alex Jones had his career nuked was he thought it was a false flag and he was saying that it was like President Barack Obama trying to get this whole thing to reinforce gun control. So they thought that it was something that was staged. So, and my personal belief on this is that this was a setup on Alex Jones. Not that they
The whole
set
thing.
up and did it to get Alex Jones, but that it happened. And then one of Alex Jones's trusted sources on the inside told him that it was fake, knowing full well that it was real, knowing that Alex Jones,
Would
and then
get
Alex Jones, who has like one of Alex Jones's biggest strengths was always his sources, and
right.
he had gotten all this stuff right, and he was like getting very powerful. So I think someone got to one of his
Just to
sources
take him down a peg kind
and
of
was
thing.
saying, "Tell Alex this is fake. Insist it's fake." So, and then Alex kind of went off saying it was fake for too long, and it's basically why you don't see him on YouTube or
Right. He
Spotify
got
or Twitter or
like
anything.
absolutely nuked off the face of
Yeah,
the planet,
like
right?
he's gone. Like you have to go to
Yeah.
like his
The
own
dark
website
web.
to find him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he still has his own website now, but he has to upload and host everything himself.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nothing
And
on
then
the
yeah.
standard channels.
And then other ones are the FBI bombing. What was that one called with
Which
Ted
one?
Kaczynski?
Oh, the Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Oklahoma City bombing. That one's kind of hanky. I'm not saying it's a false flag. I'm just saying Ted Kaczynski was part of MK Ultra.
Oh, right.
He was dosed with a whole bunch of acid. He went to the bush. He said we have to get rid of society and not society. We have to get rid of technology and go back to our roots, kind of like the Nazis said right before they did all their shit that we covered in the
Oh, wait.
Nazi
Sorry.
cult beliefs.
That was Timothy McVeigh was Oklahoma City. Ted
Who's
Kaczynski was the
Kaczynski?
Unabomber.
Oh, right. Anyways, yeah, Ted Kaczynski was. Wait, what was Oklahoma City? Was that the
Oklahoma
one where
City.
the?
Yeah, that was the one. So you're right. So Ted Kaczynski was the guy that lived in Montana,
Yeah.
in the bush in Montana. He was the one that was the shoe bomber. No, delivering bombs to random targets.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So there's some. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring
American
up Oklahoma
Airlines
City.
Flight 444. He injured students. 1981 was a university in Salt Lake City
Hmm,
in Utah.
Utah.
1982 was a bomb sent to Vanderbilt University, injured a secretary. July 1982 was the University of California, Berkeley. 1985 was a bomb at University of California, Berkeley again. Boeing Fabrication Division in Washington in 85. Michigan psychology professor later in 85, December of 85 in Sacramento, 1987. Salt Lake City again at a computer store, 1993, geneticist at the University of California, 1993 June, Yale University lost several fingers to a mail bomb. 94, an ad exec in New Jersey. And 1995, a mail bomb killed the president of the California Forestry Association in his Sacramento office.
Damn.
So 16 mailed bombs from 1978 to 1995. They finally caught him.
Jesus, that's a long time. Yeah, so that was Kaczynski, right?
Yeah, correct. And
Okay,
Timothy
so
McVeigh was the
I
Oklahoma
mixed up
City one.
two
Yeah.
stories. So
So
Kaczynski was the guy who was dosed with acid, then he went and lived in the woods,
that's right.
wrote a manifesto, whereas Timothy McVeigh was the Oklahoma City bombing, and
Correct.
that was an FBI building.
Correct.
And it was supposedly a fertilizer bomb, and there's some
It was a fertilizer bomb. Yeah.
I can't remember all the hanky shit around that, but some people point to that and they'll be like, that wasn't a real thing. And I'm not going to say whether it was or not because I can't remember and I didn't do any research on it.
Yeah.
And
he was anti-government. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I'm done. I think I'm done for the night. I think I'm
Okay.
done for this episode.
Okay. Done.
I'm starting to lose my voice. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess in closing, I just want to say if stuff doesn't seem right, it might not be right. And I don't know.
We tried our best.
Like I said, like I was saying before, I don't want to black pill everybody and make everybody feel like it's hopeless. I just want people to think about stuff that they see that's happening in the news and stuff and kind of think about it. And maybe there's more to the story. And be nice to everybody because the real way to fight conspiracies and secret societies and government officials and the ABC corporate or the ABC sections like CIA, FBI, NSA is to just be nice to each other.
Yeah.
Just make friends.
I think a lot of what you're saying is true, right? Like it's not even make friends. It's just leave that room open. Leave the room open to discussion of things.
Yeah. Right? Stop canceling everybody. Don't cancel me, even though I'm not very popular. But
you're popular to me, Dale.
Oh, wait. Sorry. What? When I said the way to beat everybody is to make friends, that's true. But I also want to add to go like and subscribe us on YouTube because then we can get money from
more friends.
I don't know. Get free money from nothing. Is that how the internet works?
I don't know. I don't know how it works. I've never been able to figure that out.
Well, I have male breasts, but I don't have the breasts that people want to see. So I can't just be an influencer.
So realistically, all you need is a glass coffin and a 24-hour channel and you're fine.
Dude.
Right?
The David Blaine effect.
Man, I know. It's like it's funny, man, because I see some people there's some people that I know. I have 2 people that I like personally know who are just do YouTube as their job basically.
Really? How?
Yeah, it's wild. One of them is a leather worker, and one of them, like, he makes props for movies. And you can check out his channel. It's Dark Horse Workshop. It's my buddy Richard from Kamloops. He still works in the movie industry. He builds like leather props and armor for movies, but he also does patterns on his Patreon. And he has he's got it all figured out. But like he has income from his YouTube videos, right? Dope. And the other one is I don't know if you ever worked with him. I worked with this guy by the name of JJ McCullough, who at the other press at Douglas College a million years ago. And JJ has a YouTube channel, and he's like the 53rd ranked Canadian YouTuber.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so like and he used to be a pundit, like a political pundit. So he's heavily into that side of things, but he has he does like Canadiana topics. It's actually pretty interesting. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So like again, they put a lot of work into it. There's a lot higher production value than what we're doing.
Hey.
Right. but you know,
mean a Zoom video that may or may not have recorded.
May or may not have recorded. Yeah.
Yeah.
But how do you build traction? I mean, both of them had like kind of already built-in audiences, right? So if you do want to like and subscribe to us, come and check us out.
And if you want to watch that other bullshit Geoff was talking about, politics about Canadiana or making shit out of leather,
music,
which actually sounds very good.
They've got detailed shots. They've got
they have their
research.
Own music?
Yeah, they have their own music.
Hey, I made the theme for the Dale Show myself.
You did.
On a little Beats app on my phone.
That's awesome.
And the funniest thing was I was trying to make the most annoying song I could, and then it just sounded really good. And I was like, oh damn.
It's pretty cool. It's catchy. What's the song on Outrage Factory?
That is it's a guitar riff, but it's from it's freeware music.
Yeah, it's like a canned music thing, right? Because I've heard it before somewhere else.
Yeah, so it's like it was just like open source, like you could just anybody could go. So if you want to take the theme song from Outrage Factory and use it, go ahead, because there's no copyright on it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Although if you do record something and then all the Outrage Factory videos get bounced off for breaking copyright, I would be very upset.
Right, because then somebody else gets more famous off of it. It's like a better YouTube channel. Yeah, I don't understand how influencers and YouTube channels really work. So we're doing our best. This is mostly us hanging out and talking about conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
And we do it for us. This is our glass coffin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's like I listened to this podcast Dudesy. I've been listening to like so many episodes, and it's Will Sasso, and he keeps saying podcast should just be two dudes shitting around.
That's really what it is.
That's all it is. That's what it is. Like, I don't know, like I love it when people listen to this, but the main reason I do this is to just sit here and talk about conspiracies and stuff.
Totally.
And jerking off in glass coffins.
Jerking off glass coffins. Yeah.
Those are my interests.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right.
Anything else you want to say to the audience before we go and see if this recorded?
It's very, very nice to spend time with my handsome friend,
Mr. Thanks, sir.
Ritter. Yeah.
We might be back to re-record
this. We should change shirts. It's like interspliced, a different shirt for each segment. What the hell's going on? Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna stop the recording now.
Do it.
Go like us on YouTube, like and subscribe, write a review.
Smash that like button, as the kids say.
Find me on, if you're listening to just the audio, thank you, but you could go see our nice bright orange shirts on YouTube. I think this is on Anchor and Spotify.
Sweet.
I think it's on a bunch of stuff, but yeah.
I watch it on YouTube. So I watch all of the Outrage Factory brand of podcasts on our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah. The YouTube channel is the same for Outrage Factory and the Dale Show. So you can watch them both.
If you want to find me on the Twitter machine, go ahead. I am at Mr. Goats.
I'm at Super Dalebot.
Cool. We'll see you on the internet.
Yeah, see you on the internet. That's a good one.
Not bad, right? That just happened, sort of weirdly happened. Organic.
Let's totally lift that and hope nobody else has done that. All right.